You've just made it through our video that was really long about sample homeschool portfolios. Showed you a whole bunch of different types of portfolios and how they work for different students from different time periods with different goals. Hopefully that gives you some sense of what you should be doing to create your student's portfolio. But we're also going to give you some handy helpers to make that a little bit easier. We have some worksheets that create a template for how you want to introduce the sample work that you have for your student.
So this is your template, and this is what your finished document is going to look like. So at the top, it's pretty obvious. Credit hours, 1 or 1/2. Grade earned, course title, Algebra 1, credit hours 1. Completion date, instructor, parent name, a mode of instruction, whether is it self-paced, is it instructor guided, is it an online curriculum, is it a combination of these? And then your course description. In this case, it just says this course covered the foundational concepts of first year algebra, key topics included linear equations and equalities, solving graphic and modeling real world problems, functions, domain, range, graphing, and notation, parentheses, linear, quadratic, exponential, polynomials and factoring data. And then underneath that it says textbook resources used, and it's Algebra Structure and Method, Book 1 by Dalciani, 1990, Khan Academy, comma, IXL, comma, teaching textbooks. So 3 resources were used. And then supplemental resources, graphing calculator, Desmos online calculator, instructor created worksheets. Now, that is this whole chunk here.
Right.
And that is this whole chunk there. If the college needs a table, that table of contents page is going to already tell you what textbook it is. And it's going to tell you what this is. So you
may not need these.
I would just take a screenshot and replace these.
Right, and so then you include the screenshot of the photograph, whatever, of your table of contents.
It might just take all of this and then this can get popped to the back.
Or, because if it's literally a physical book and you're doing a photograph, you could just tuck that in the page behind this introduction thing and just eliminate that part entirely.
Right.
So this is intended to be something that you fill in as much as you need to, but leave out what you don't, because you are not necessarily going to need all of these things at all times. What we've given you here are all of the things you might need.
Right. And so we're also asking on this page, and this is very important at the bottom of this page, they want to know how you came up with your child's grade. They don't want to know that you just stuck a finger in the air and figured out the temperature.
Oh, they tried hard, so I gave them an A.
That is never going to work for them. So they want to know, so in this case, we do component, weight, and description. Component 1, daily assignments and quizzes. That's worth 40% of the grade. And the description is regular practice problems completed for mastery check. Component 2, unit exams, 40% of the grade. Comprehensive tests administered after the completion of each unit. Component 3, midterm and final, 20%. Cumulative assessments covering the first half and entire course content, retrospectively. And then we have work samples and portfolio evidence. So you might want to show a couple of unit exams, which is something Mare did, right?
Yep, because you're using a non-standard thing, then you might need those questions to validate what you actually taught.
You might just want to show a complex problem set or 2, because if you can do this at the end of the algebra book,
right,
you can do the whole algebra book, right? If there's a presentation or a project, a linear modeling project, or something like that can go in there. Or a final exam score report where you just screenshot the final exam. So there's so many ways to show that math was done. This template is going to help you record that and then decide what's enough. If the school comes back and says, I need a table of contents, then you add it in there.
Which happened to us, which is why all of the pages in my child's portfolio have tables of contents.
Right.
It's one of the schools that we had attempted.
If your child is going to Georgia Gwinnett College,
you gotta call them out like that.
They don't play with these portfolios. It's not that they're mean. If they're going to SCAD, my son applied to SCAD, And so therefore I knew that they wanted to know how many hours you spent in each class.
Right.
And so because I knew that this young man was going to an arts program, I made sure that we had how many hours spent in each class. All of these things aren't necessary, but there's a method to the madness.
Right.
So
what you prioritize is dependent on where your student.
Homeschool friendly colleges, this is all you need, right? Arts conservatories, you need to keep hours. Flagship colleges,
You got to do everything.
you need the table of contents.
Right. Because that is, my child did come at the last minute saying he wanted to go to the flagship university, and we're like, sweet child.
And so that's what that application was written for.
I would say what I would do looking at this is 1 credit / however many hours. And maybe bold the number of hours.
If children are going to theater conservatories, I want the hours. So what I did with young dude, I added it up and then I put that number here. Because that's what SCAD asked me to do. And so whenever I'm dealing with a arts conservatory, that is the format I follow.
Right. Dang it.
Language arts.
It's going to look pretty much the same because most of your core classes are going to need the same kind of information.
So for this one, we have credit hours, grade earned, completion date, program instructor name. In this case, it's the name of the homeschool program and the instructor's name.
Right. So that when you say instructor name, that could be you as the parent. That could be a private tutor that helped your child with the subject. That could be a homeschool program. That could be the name of the online resource. Because your mode of instruction might be online, but the instructor might be Khan Academy.
And so then for mode of instruction, it was instructor-led discussion and workshop. Course description, the course provided a critical study of major American literary movements and authors from the 17th century through the modern era. Emphasis was placed on developing analytical reading, formal writing, and research skills. Key writing units included expository writing, yada, literary analysis, argumentative essay, yada is the definition of what those things are, MLA citation and research, yada. Right. And so you're just explaining what happened there. Textbooks and resources used, primary text, the language of composition, writing and rhetoric, core novels, plays, The Great Gatsby, Crucible, The Adventures of Huck Finn. Supplementary resources, Purdue OWL. And so then we're gonna do how we graded them once again. We're not just gonna wave it around. We're gonna say, for example, reading, journals, and quizzes, that was worth 25% of their grade. And then describe what that is. Analytical essays, that was worth 45% of their grade. Describe what that is. In this case, it's 4 formal, 500 to 750 word essays analyzing different literary works. And then a major research paper was worth 30%, which was a final 1,500 word argumentative paper using a minimum of 5 outside sources cited in MLA format. This is grade 11. That's what grade 11 should sound like.
Right. A paper in the one that's digital display where there's literally the grading and the red marks on there. And so the mistakes were left in with that grading and feedback so that the college could see that part of the process. The other thing colleges really like, and when you're rating your different paper grades, is they love to see that some independent analysis has been done of that writing level. And so that it's not just, great, where did you get this grade from? So we run ours through, what's the online assessment?
I look at a Flush Kincaid score.
Right.
And then I look at paperrater.com, plug in the child's grade, and it's going to tell you, here's the grade we would give them. Of course, there are some reasons that you might grade it differently.
Right.
But here are the places that they can improve based on their grade level.
Right. And so by doing the Flush Kincaid, that's going to be what level of education do you have to have as a reader to understand the paper? And so that'll give you a grade level. And then the paper rater will tell you you're writing at this grade level.
I wouldn't just do Flush Kincaid because it'll pop a paper at grade 16 because it may not make sense to your average person. So you
have to do some of the both. You can't just do one or the other.
Work samples, portfolio evidence.
We have a field for that here, but honestly, that's going to literally be writing samples.
You don't need to do 4.
Right.
You generally need to do their best writing for the year. But there's 4 different, in the sample, there are 4 different types of writing samples you can put in here. 1 or 2 is fine. And then at the end, you just want to give an overall yay child, pat on the back. And this says the student demonstrated excellent skill in rhetorical analysis, consistently identifying and explaining the effectiveness of stylistic choices in text. The final research paper was a success, showcasing strong synthesis of external research with textual interpretation. This course prepared the student for college level reading and analytical writing. You don't have to write this like the nerd that I am, but you do need to understand enough about what the child is doing to give feedback on it. And so if you're not the teacher, take this to the teacher and have them write it.
You can literally print out this form and put it in the teacher's hand and have them fill it out. And then that becomes another artifact for your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I don't know that we need to revisit the things that are the same for each one. All of this is pretty much the same.
So science.
Specifically for science is that we're going to have some different textbooks and research resources.
Including, you might do online simulations, or you might have lab workshops that they went to the community center and did things like that. So that's what'll be different.
Right.
And then assessments and valuation. I don't have anything there, but just decide how you're going to grade. In this case, exams and quizzes, 45%, formal lab reports, 40%, participation notebook, 15%. So you decide upfront how you're going to grade their work and hold them to that.
Right. So we also do have a total number of lab hours if this is a lab science. Obviously you skip that.
Yes.
Obviously you skip that if it's not a lab class, but because you do need 2 lab sciences, so you want to record the number of hours that you have for that.
Lab science lab hours are very important for lab sciences.
Right.
Not all sciences are lab sciences. You can skip that in that case. Work samples and portfolio evidence for lab sciences, you're going to want to include some lab sheets.
Yep.
Period. Some examples would be a formal lab report. If it's not a lab science, it could just be a unit exam. It could be an observation log.
It could be a field report.
Right. It could be a scientific poster. But if it's a lab science, there needs to be a lab in there.
And there need to be lab sheets documenting that.
Right. And that's what I meant by a lab. Yeah. That's what I meant by a lab.
Well, the lab is the physical activity. The lab sheet is the artifact that comes out of it.
Social sciences.
So again, your top section's pretty much the same.
Lab section's the same. Course description, same. Textbooks used. In social studies, you're generally going to use a textbook. But you may also use something for primary sources. So it may just be a collection of things you found on the internet, or it may be some primary source reader,
Right.
which is a book that is a conglomeration of the important primary sources for that class. For example, in government, your primary source is generally going to be the Constitution.
Right.
Like a Constitution primer, right? And then supplemental resources, websites, documentaries, Ken Burns documentaries, Gilda Lehman Institute of American History, videos, things of that nature. Once again, you decide in advance how you're going to weight the class. And then a work sample would be a paper, especially for 11th and 12th grade.
Major research paper of history.
A presentation sliders would work for lower grades. It's not necessary in every grade.
Right.
Colleges want to see where the kids are right now.
Yeah.
So if you're going to send samples, I would focus on their best samples overall
So here's another
over
point
the
to
course
this.
of the 4 years.
So 11th grade, there should be a major research paper in the social science class that's being taken for 11th grade toward the end of the year,
Right.
maxing out what the student is able to do.
Right.
Because here's the thing. The first time you start putting this together, if your student's going straight to college from homeschooling, the information you're submitting to the colleges before December, these are the classes that my senior is taking.
Right.
These are in progress and they'll be updated after the end of the school year. But at that point, not only have application deadline's passed, but a lot of times you've got decisions from the schools already.
And one of these portfolios here, after the transcript, the next page says classes in progress.
Yep.
They
So-
are going to look back at those classes in progress after they've accepted your child. You have to send
You
them
have to
one more
submit
transcript.
that final transcript, and if they want writing examples or whatever, if they want the finished portfolio, then you may have to submit that after the end of the
But
school
your
year.
child is being accepted on the basis of their grade 11 work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, foreign language.
So basically same.
You will want to note here the different disciplines of foreign language. So anytime that you have the studying of foreign language, you need to document some way of writing, grammar, some listening comprehension, reading comprehension. And you do need some culture. If you remember back to the video on going through the sample portfolios, there are standard tests for European languages that are continent-wide. There's a standard, an understanding of what those things are. Those tests include listening comprehension. Those tests include reading comprehension. So all of that is baked into those tests. So if you're not doing that route, then you need something that's going to hit all those points.
And so just an FYI, what I have for assessment types are 35% of the grade is for weekly recorded monologues, oral comprehension quizzes, and 2 graded conversational sessions with the instructor. Assessment type 2 is unit grammar exam, short essays, example describing a past vacation, and journaling. Assessment type 3, quizzes on assigned cultural readings and translation practice. Assessment type 4, comprehensive cultural presentation, delivered entirely in the Gould language. Some people do a song. A friend of mine is still so proud of We Didn't Start the Fire.
I had to write a fairy tale. German fairy tales are a thing, and so we had to.
And then we have the catch-all, the elective portfolio page.
So if it doesn't fit in one of the other categories,
It goes here. In this case, because there are several examples
right?
in our documents, but I pulled the theater arts, acting and performance level 1. This is basically a 9th grader taking theater arts. Credit hours, completion date, etc. Course description, introductory course, focus on fundamental acting techniques, stage movement, and vocal production. You get this information directly from the course description, whoever's teaching that class.
Right.
It's going to be there, right?
Yep.
Course skill 1, character analysis. Course skill 2, stage blocking movement. Course skill 3, improvisation. Materials are used. So there might be some plays. There could be a studio or facility where they're doing the classes, and then reference materials. There may be certain little acting books or things, so you put that in there. I would leave this up to the theater director. So graded on final performance, skill mastery, process documentation. Work samples, photographs, and the program book that I showed you.
Right.
So you take the program book, you open the book to where your child's bio is, and you slip it in there. And when it's time to include that, you can just put their bio page in and then the
Yes.
front page of the book.